Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video and another gameplay video for you all. A bunch of people, not a bunch, but a decent amount of people were asking for gameplay videos for my newest Breeze Rider Boots build with Katsu, so I wanted to try to do a couple gameplay videos for you all. This was the first game that I recorded with the new build, and let me tell you right now, it was a grinder. As you can tell by how long this video is, this was a crazy game. Ended up playing a Bravo in the Fab Discord. Fine gentleman, really nice dude. Forgot his name. I don't think we introduced her by names, but he ended up playing Starvo, and he ended up playing a control Starvo, really control-based build, not a high roller build. He was talking to me about how he went to his recent ProQuest and he didn't like how the high roller build was playing, so he wanted to play more of a control-y, pop off when you can, but really just that kind of Oldheim style hammer for 4. So going into it, I didn't know this going into it, but I had to really play this deck differently. But you'll kind of see, hopefully, some of the ideations of this deck. I'm going to try to put out more gameplays because this gameplay is kind of weird where, you couldn't see Katsu in his full form because it is in a control build. But, still fun to watch. Also, I just did a tunic counter. I missed 2 tunic counters in this game. It's totally fine. I'm new to using tunic, so I know I'm going to do that. So you can call me a pleb in the comments. It's totally fine. But he Arsenal passed for his first turn, which is probably typical. He wants to get that Crown of Seeds in there. If you can't really Starvo me right off the bat, getting the +2 dominate go again, doesn't really make sense for him to hammer for 4 and let me filter my hand. So he Arsenal passed. Really the smart move on his case. If I eat, I apologize. This video is going to be a minute. So forgive me. So I come in here. I'm not going to remember all my hands. This game was so long. So many things muddy together. So I apologize. I will just comment as the hands come up. But starting with the Kadachi for 1. When it comes to Starvo, I keep 3 red even bigger than that. So my sideboard plan is I sideboard out my 2 yellow even bigger than that. And I put in 2 unmovables. I don't put in 2 sink blows. Sink blows aren't going to do shit for me. Sorry, my language, when it comes to Starvo. Because if he +2 dominates me, it's not going to cover up enough anyway. So they kind of are just useless in my opinion. Yes, you can block the hammers, but whatever. So I just do 2 unmovables. When it comes to when Kadachi's even bigger than that, I still Kadachi pretty frequently because I want to bait out his Crown. I don't want to be able to use Crown on my breakpoint attacks like leg tap or Surging Strike or even Torrent Tempo. So I'm trying to get him to use Crown as quickly in the turn as possible, similar to Oldheim. And then also use Rampart if I'm lucky. And so he really has to commit cards from hand. So use Crown my first Kadachi. He took the second Kadachi. Nothing too crazy. And I Rushing River here for 3. I forgot what else was in my hand. I think I had a Rushing River, Whelming Gust Wave, and something else. I had a Break Tide, I think, in hand. Yeah, I had Break Tide in hand. So I was trying to think of hey, maybe pop Breeze Rider Boots this early. And we'll see what happens. But I was like, you know what? It didn't make sense. Once he synced it, I think I could have actually gotten over the top here with a defense reaction. But overall, not the best turn in the world, but I didn't want to pop Breeze this early. And then, not have the 1 block or not have it for a future turn when I'm really going to need it. So he only committed 1 card from hand. But him pitching a Crown and then him using a Sync, I don't think he's going to have Starvo ability this first turn. I don't think he'd block like that if he did. So I just Arsenal passed, took 1 damage off of him, and then just, waited for my next turn. Not the best turn, but I didn't have a great first hand, so it was a little bit different. So yeah, so with this, he auto touched me for 7. No dominate, no +2, no nothing. So I don't know at this point if he runs pummels or not, but if he does, he does, right? We got to bait it out at some point and see if he's running them. So I declared no blocks because there's no on-hit effects. There's no point in blocking a 7-power attack with no on-hit effects as a Katsu. If he has pummel, then I'm already in trouble anyway, right? So there's no point in blocking that out. So I just let that go. And here's where I missed my tunic counter. So if you want to call me a pleb in the comments, please just put the word pleb in comments, or put the word bad or whatever you want. It's totally fine. But I did miss my tunic counter. It's whatever. It's fine. I probably actually missed more than 2. Who knows? We'll see. So we Kadachi for 1 again, trying to bait out the Crown of Seeds early. And I'm also kind of looking at his play style and seeing if he's going to be one of those Starvos that uses Crown very frequently and is constantly cycling his hand, or if he's wanting to put really powerful attacks in his arsenal and then use them with Starvo ability the next turn. So me using these early Kodachis will help me be able to figure out what type of Starvo he is. He ended up taking it, so he's down at 38 now. I ended up playing E-Strike for 5. I could have played it last turn, but the E-Strike for 5, I would have had a sink a card. All I would have had left was Rushing River, and then I want to be able to try to do the Break Tide turn. That's why I ended up playing Rushing River, because hopefully I could discard that third card in my hand, keep the E-Strike, go get Break Tide, 5 go again, dominate, banish a card, play E-Strike, or like pitch whatever to play the banish. I could have done all that stuff, but he blocked out the Rushing River. Anyway, we're doing E-Strike for 5 go again here. It doesn't feel good for him to crown in this situation, or to really Rampart, to be honest. But he ends up playing Sink Blows, so he's playing a second Sink Blow, so I'm like, okay, well, this is a little bit more control of a Starvo. You know, maybe I'm starting to get the feeling he's more of a control style deck, but because you don't see Sink Blows a ton in Starvo. But I was like, maybe he's just running 2 or 3 because of my Katsu, right? And he's wanting to figure this out. And he got unlucky with drawing both of them early, so we'll see what happens in later turns. But I am starting to get the grasp that he probably is a little bit more control-based. So I play open the center for 5 here. Go again. Not go again, sorry. All my resources. My plan here is if this hits, I'm going to go get Flusterfist, which it does. Again, this is why I like the Breeze Rider Boots build. Because if he lets this hit, and then he lets Flusterfist hit, right? Flusterfist can be 6 with go again. So I breaking skills it to get it to hit. Give it 37. And also him being more controlling. This isn't the best use for Breeze Rider Boots by any means either. This is just me wanting to be able to play Flusterfist for 6 with go again. The go again on Flusterfist doesn't really matter, but it gave open the center go again, so then I can play Flusterfist. That's what Flusterfist was in hand. So I want to use Breeze Rider Boots to then play Flusterfist for 6, and he full blocks it, right? Which was pretty, or not full blocks, but blocks for 3. So he just dumped his whole hand with a Spinal Crush in his hand. So that tells me that he's definitely in control. Once he did that, I was like, okay, this dude's just going to try to starve me out, no pun intended. He literally dumped his whole hand when he had a Spinal Crush in hand that he could have arsenaled for next turn and then possibly played next turn. So he's definitely in control at this point, and now I have to really switch up my game plan and how I'm going to play this game out. So we'll see how it goes. And he just drew and passed up. This time I remembered my Tunic because I'm a good player. Not really. So he just drew up because he dumped his whole hand. Pretty sure. Yeah. So for me, we pitch a Rise and Ethrust to play. What I play? Torrent Tempo? Yeah, Torrent Tempo for 5. This is on hit go again. I couldn't remember if I had a Razor and Ancestral here. Sorry, I can't remember my hands, y'all. I really want to make a way of doing that efficiently, but it's kind of hard. I'm not going to lie to you. With my setup, I would have to like put my camera in some janky angle, and it just wouldn't work well. If I'm playing with buddies, I'll start showing my hand on camera and just tell them not to look if they don't mind. But against randoms, I can't just show my hand on camera, or else they're not going to play like they normally would. Playing a Torrent Tempo, though, first chain is not ideal. If you have Torrent Tempo in your deck, the best time to play Torrent Tempo is Chainlink 3. Chainlink 1 is not good because they can just block you out in your turn. Chainlink 2 is not good because if you've hit with Chainlink 1, they're going to be basically forced to block out Chainlink 2 because they don't want you to get Mass Trigger or go again. So playing at Chainlink 3 is really good because they've ideally just blocked in Chainlink 2 to help prevent Mass Trigger for the next attack. So more times than not, it gets through. He ends up taking this, though, which tells me he has a decent hand. So, like the Starvo freaking PTSD, right? Is like, okay, he just took a 5 Torrent Tempo. Holy crap. He's going to go, he's going to freaking go crazy Starvo mode on me. So, I just said, like, whatever. I'm just going to keep pushing damage. I had Rushing River in hand, I think. Or, no, I had Break Tide in hand, and I went and got Rushing River. Just going to try to push some damage. And it's going to force him it's going to force him to block the Rushing River, because if he lets this hit, then Break Tide's going to be 5 Dominate, which he can technically block with equipment. But he doesn't, or he doesn't want to, so he's going to block the Rushing River out. What I will say about this game, this isn't a hit on him as a player, this is just my thoughts, is he didn't use his equipment to block until like super late game. I don't think he ever used his legs. Like ever. and he didn't use Tunic to block. He used Crater Fist to block one time. So for someone who's controlly, it was very interesting to see him hold on his equipment, especially late game, which you'll see. Really interesting. So I hit him for 5 dominate here. And again, this is a time where if he wants to prevent me from having a little bit of gas next turn, use your Crater Fist and a card from hand, and I don't get the banish. But he didn't do it. So he just kind of took it on the chin a little bit, which is fine. I end up banishing him against you release here. Also, side note, this is not on him. This is in general. I do this too with Viscerai all the time. Token cards like Frostbites, Rune Chants, Shackles with Chain, you cannot have them on the field unless they're active. So him having a Frostbite on the field, you're technically not supposed to do that. Do most players say anything? No. But it's just something for y'all to know about. Like if you don't have Rune, like if you're playing Viscerai and you don't have any Rune Chants built, don't have your Rune Chant token on the field. That's just how it works. Same thing with Frostbite. It's just a game state thing. So he just hammers me for 4 here. I'm going to take this any day of the week. Again, I haven't seen a pummel yet. Still a little weary of pummels, but he's a control build, so I don't think he's riding him at this point. But I mean, if he's just gonna hammer me for 4 with no frosty effect, I'll take that any day of the week as a Katsu. However, with his control build, it is a little bit scary because he's just gonna keep doing this. And like if he can block me out, and I'm only dealing like eking through like 2, 3, 4 damage a turn, and then he's hit me with a Winter's Well for 4, and I never want to block it, then we're basically trading damage back and forth, which is what we did this game. And then when you get low, then he can use the Bravo ability to like go over the top. Like if the game was like 10-10 or 8-8 or something like that, then he comes in with a Crippling Crush, right, for 11-13 dominate. Like that's where it could get really scary. So we still have to manage our life total here. So we lead with the head jab. Again, like I said in my last video, if you watch my deck tech, one of my favorite things to do, even against a Bravo, right? Even though he has Rampart, even though he has Crown of Seas, he still has to commit a card from hand to block this, which is awesome. And it opens up so much in your hand to be, if you lead with the head jab or 100 wins, and you can Katsu trigger, you basically, with Breezy Boots, even though it's not active right now, you can literally like pivot into anything. So he blocks it here, which is totally fine. And at worst, right, I just made him commit a card from hand with a head jab. So now I still have 3 cards in hand. I have my Kadachi's in play. He still has Crown, which hurts a little bit. But overall, it's totally fine with me. If he's going to block with a Glacial Footsteps that he could fuse and dominate me on for a head jab, like that's net positive for me, man. Like, no issues at all. I use my Tunic counter to Maginchi release here. I have a Razor in hand, I'm pretty sure. So for anyone that plays against Katsu, he probably knew I had a Razor in hand or knew I had something in hand. So I wouldn't just play a 4-cost attack with no go again with, 3 cards still in hand. So he knows I have something. So he ends up crowning here. Yep. All right. Ends up crowning here. And this is the hard thing with Starvo and Oldheim, and this is why these heroes are really good, but also really hard to play sometimes in a control matchup, is because like people say like it takes no brain. And in some cases it does take no brain just to play really defensive. But if you sequence something wrong, you're not even gonna realize you're doing it. And it's not gonna go well for you. Like if you crown at the wrong time, if you rampart at the wrong time, you commit cards when you shouldn't, blah blah. It's really bad. Yeah, I end up Maginchi releasing this. I pitched a Blackout Kick. Okay, yeah, so I had a Blackout Kick in hand and even bigger than that in hand. So that's why I did this. Maginchi was going to go away after this turn anyway, so I used the Tunic counter to get it out for free and then pitched a Blackout Kick to Razor, and then I still have an even bigger than that I can now Arsenal. So I've dealt, a 10 damage turn, which isn't great for Katsu. It's great for any other hero, but it isn't great for Katsu, but it's good enough, and I can set up my next turn with even bigger than that, which is really, really nice. Right there, I was just counting my cards. Now that I know he's a control matchup, I want to see like how much of my deck have I gone through. So at that point, I had gone through 10 cards in my deck, not counting what was on the field. So 4 of my deck's already gone. and I'm going to have him at 21 health. So half of his health is gone and a quarter of my deck is gone is the way I look at it, right? And I'm also counting how many blues I have left because I run 15 blues. So if I have 3 blues in graveyard, then I know like, okay, I have this many blues because if I have 2 immovables left in my deck and let's say I've used 6 blues, I'm like, oh crap, it's going to be hard to pay for it, right? So it's just me trying to understand and figure out where my game state is because in these control matchups, you really have to manage your deck properly. So he ends up Winter's Wailing for 4. I'm going to keep taking these. If I have 1 blue in hand or 2 blues in hand, I'm going to take it. He's not going to have an arsenal. So my even bigger than that is going to hit unless he just starts committing cards from hand. Oh, he does have an arsenal. Okay. So you have an arsenal here. I still run the red even bigger than that against Starvo because they don't crown every single time, especially if they're high roller Starvos. They want to keep that good attack in the arsenal sometimes. So I still run the red even bigger than that. It's the only time I take all my even bigger than that's out is obviously Oldheim. Just take them out. It's not worth it. It's not worth the cards. So we pay 100 wins for 3. My hope actually here is that he doesn't block it. He just takes the 3 damage. Or my hope here is that he crowns it or something. There's something where I get like 1 or 2 damage eke through. That's what I'm hoping he does. And then I can even bigger than that anyway. Pretty sure he ends up blocking this. It's really interesting. Even for a control build, and the one thing I think he made a quote-unquote mistake on, I don't know how he plays 100% of the time, but as a Katsu player, even though it will give me Katsu trigger, blocking this as a control build really sucks if you don't crown because you're taking a card away from hand when I still have 3-4 cards in hand, right? It's just not good for him. Like I still have 3 cards in hand, 2 resources floating, 2 Kodachis present, and if you give up a card, then now it's going to be really hard for you to block out the rest of the turn depending on what's in my hand. So I end up Kodachiing here. My hope is that he uses Crown but not Shield on one of these Kodachis. So one of them ekes through and then I can play even bigger than that. So he does end up Ramparting here. Which is the right play on his part because now if he crowns my 3rd Kodachi, I'm in trouble with the even bigger than that. But it's fine. At least I bait them out. I still have 2 cards in hand, 1 card in arsenal, and both of his, instant stuff is done. He ends up taking it and not crowning, which tells me he wants whatever's in his arsenal. Then I play even bigger than that. If he doesn't crown there, to me, it tells me like whatever's in his arsenal, he wants it, or it's a sink below. It's probably a D-react in his case, right? If he's playing this control build and he's not crowning out, that means it's a D-react. So now I got to play around that. That's another thing. If you find that you're playing a Guardian and they don't crown seeds, if we're Starvo and Oldheim, and they don't crown seeds on one of your Kodachis, likely either they have a big attack if they're not control build, or if they are a control build, they have a defense reaction in Arsenal. It's the easiest tell in the world. So we end up playing the Rising Ethrest here for 3 go again. If this hits, we're hoping that we can go get Blackout Kick or Hurricane Technique. He doesn't let it hit, which is, I was surprised because I know he's a control build, but like, this isn't threatening Mass Trigger. My next attack would be threatening Mass Trigger. So I guess you could, but it was just interesting that he blocked this out, which is fine. I just came in with another attack, but that's the thing that Katsu does to you. He puts you in a bad spot. So he staunch responses this. Again, interesting. That's the only crappy thing about having defense reactions in Arsenal, especially ones you have to pay for as a Guardian, is because he doesn't want that to stay in his Arsenal because he wants to keep crowning, right? He wants to keep cycling. You can't do that if it's just sticking in his Arsenal. But he also doesn't want to just wait and hold it for the perfect attack if I don't do it, right? So it was very difficult for him to figure out how to do that. And honestly, if you're a Guardian player out there, my opinion, even if you're a control build, don't run staunch responses against a Katsu. Just don't do it. Because with Crown Seeds, like, run Sink Belows and run Fate for Scenes. I don't think staunch responses are worth it against a Katsu. Because the only card you're really going to want to staunch response is a Surging Strike. Again, another Winner's Wail. As much as I'm doing here, I'm kind of controlling the game state and controlling what he's doing. It's it's still a close game. I haven't hit any of my surging strikes. I think I've only hit one leg tap. So you can see how like this is already like I have hit a couple head jabs and 100 wins, but like I haven't hit my hard cards yet. I just haven't. But that's why I like Breeze Rider boots, because even though I haven't hit like my combo starters, it's really still been beneficial because I was able to play Open the Center into Fluster Fist. You know, it's 11 damage turn. Now, some people would have said, well, if you had Snapdragon skills, you wouldn't have had to use breaking skills. And you're right. But where it's useful, that wasn't the best Breeze Rider Boots turn. But if I would have still had one card in hand, right, I could have easily discarded and went and gotten something else, right? It just depends on what you're doing. Could have went and got, you know, another Fluster Fist. And then played, you know, Fluster Fist for 6, Fluster Fist for 4, because Fluster Fist would have go again for Breeze Rider Boots. I honestly didn't even have a good Breeze Rider Boots turn, and it still, you know, was fairly effective. More times than not, Breeze Rider Boots can do similar things to Snap, unless you're using Snatch or E-Strike. But I'm using my even bigger than that to my Razors in order to give those go again and make those difficult to play against. So he lets this one hit. He didn't have. Once I knew he didn't have an arsenal, right? It was really like even bigger than that's gonna hit. Once I realized he doesn't have an arsenal. And we kind of waste the Quicken token here, but what I'm trying to do is just play Winds of Eternity for 4, cycle things back into my hand. I have a Razor in hand, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I do have a Razor in hand. So I have Winds of Eternity with a Razor in hand. So I went ahead and just played that, trying to cycle another blue back into my deck to help pay for unmovables, hopefully. And my other options I don't think were very good. So he blocks it, which is fine. We then, I Razored this to get the second one to hit. So now what I'm hoping happens is I Winds of Eternity for 4, and then I can draw another card which I stacked in order to Arsenal. Right here, I couldn't decide if he was like what he was trying to do. And a little bit, I was just trying to push damage on these turns. Honestly, what I should have done is Winds of Eternity for 4 and then Razored. That's what I should have done, but, you know, what are you going to do? Yeah, this is a misplay on my part. I should have Winds of Eternity for 4, still had one card in hand, and then Razored to make sure Winds hit. But Winds probably wouldn't have hit, right? It would have hit because it turned Timber, not being able to block 7. But it's all good. No worries. I'm pretty sure our Arsenal is unmovable here, and then it stays in my Arsenal forever. Until I absolutely needed it, which I did need it. So it was really good. So he ends up Winter's Wailing here. No Frosty. Again, he's just managing the game, trying to keep it close. I'm trying to pitch stack as much as I can. And this is where the game really slowed down. Like, we're at, 15 to 17. You're like, oh, the game's going somewhat fast, right? It's only been 23 minutes. Like, the game really slows down here in a minute. So if you're still here, I appreciate you. Just keep bearing with us. I think this is the matchup most people would want to see anyway. Even though this is a control build, definitely a different Starvo than you normally would see. So here, again, trying to bait out the crown, get that thing out of the way as quickly as possible. He checks it, which tells me it's probably not a D-React. If he's even thinking about crown, it's not a D-React, unless he's playing mind games with me. But I don't think anybody in a casual game of Discord be playing mind games with me, so he crowns out. And we Kodachi again. At this point, now that I have him at 15 life, I can really start to try to bleed him out with Kodachis. Like, if I can do 1 or 2 damage with Kodachis a turn, plus my other cards, and eke through 4 to 5 damage a turn, he's going to start to get to a point where he's going to start committing cards from hand in order to block these Kodachis, and then I'm just winning. So he ends up full blocking this. And then a Pounding Gale for 5. So now if he full block this, he's going to get rid of his whole hand other than maybe a whale. So this is where he starts winning, right? Like if he full blocks me, and I've only dealt 1 damage, he keeps 1 card in hand, then he winter whales me for 4. So now he's at a +3 life advantage when it comes to stuff like that, right? Which is exactly what he's doing. He's just full blocking me. I only dealt 1 damage. Now he's going to winter's whale me for 4. If he doesn't want his arsenal. But the thing with this is it's good and bad for him because he's at a plus. The decision point for him is like, do I want an arsenal to be able to crown or do I want a winner's whale? That's exactly what he's taking right now, right? Like, what do I want to do? And so he decides to Frosty Well for 4 here. In my opinion, it's a smart move. Like, I only dealt 1 damage. You're about to do a 4. He knows I'm not going to block it, right? So now I know at 14-13, I'm going to have to start blocking attacks here in a little bit. Like, I'm going to have to start committing 1 card from hand to block winner's whale and only take 1. And so, but he doesn't have an arsenal here, so I know my Kodachis have a higher chance of hitting, which is good for me, right? If I can hit with 2 Kodachis, he's probably going to use Rampart on 1, but, you know, he lets it hit, which is interesting. Probably going to use Rampart on the second Kodachi, so I don't Kodachi. I like tap for 4 here. So even if he Ramparts, he's going to have to commit a card from hand. Again, the interesting thing that he didn't do is he did not block with equipment. Like, he has those legs right there. Like, we're at the point in the game where every life matters. And I think, honestly, he should have blocked with the legs. But I lunging pressed it. He sync blowed it, and I lunging pressed it to give it +1. So now I'm threatening mass trigger. I don't know what he was thinking here. He told me to hold up. I guess if he was going to use another D-React, but he didn't. I mean, maybe he did. Maybe he was thinking about it, but I don't know. I was very surprised when he told me to hold up. We end up playing Rising Ethos for 5. Go again. We still have 1 arsenal, which is still that immovable. We're just holding that immovable. Like, if he keeps whaling me, it's fine. I'm waiting until he decides to try to attack me big, which he ends up doing. So it really helped. You'll see here in a minute. So he ends up staunch responsing this. So he was thinking about like double D-reacting that leg tap, which would not have been the right call at all. So I'm glad that he made the right play and didn't do that. It's always good when the players play at their best, you know. So again, all he can do is go Tunic, and then either can Arsenal or Winner's Wheel. He chooses the Arsenal here because I dealt, you know, a decent amount of damage. Now he's wanting to keep that crown in hand. I think he started realizing, like, at this point in the game, my Kodachis are more threatening than a Winner's Wheel. I don't really know what the right decision is. If you're a Guardian player out there, should he have, you know, kept hitting with the Winner's Wheel and forcing me to have to block a little bit, or was it smarter to always have something in Arsenal? I'd really be interested to hear some of y'all's thoughts. So here I'm counting how many blues I have. I have an unmovable in Arsenal, and I think I have another unmovable in my hand, which is the 2 that I decided in. So now I have to decide, like, okay, how many blues I have. Is it going to be easy to pay for this other unmovable? Like, how is this going to work, right? So, I just want to see how many blues I had. I think I had to use like 6 blues. So I had like, 9 blues left in the deck. I also want to see how bad my threats were looking. Like, if I only have 4 blues in graveyard, that means like a third of my deck right now left is blues, which is not good. So I knew I'd have to start pitch stacking a little bit better. Then here he decides not to crown and not to rampart, which tells me now he has a good attack. If he's in Arsenal, it's 10-13. You have rampart and crown, and you don't use either one on either Kodachi. You got something in Arsenal that you want to play. or you have something in your hand or something, right? So this is where I was like, okay, this turn I need to push tempo as much as humanly possible. Whatever I have in my hand, dump it. I pitch away the unmovable to pay for that leg tap. And I'm really trying to push damage here. I end up whelming Gust Waving here for 3. He can block this if he wants. He's going to have to command another card from hand. And again, he's wanting to do something in his hand. So I guess he then decided that it wasn't. He has a Spinal Crush. I don't remember which turn it was. Maybe it was that turn. But maybe it wasn't that turn. Maybe it's the next turn. It's one of these turns here upcoming the next turn or two where he has a Spinal Crush. And I block it with my unmovable. Gosh, so many things. Sorry, I had to mute a conversation. It was going to keep popping up on my phone. So yeah, he Spinal Crushes here. So it was the turn that he wanted to do it. And I ended up playing that movable Arsenal, taking 1 damage and keep moving, right? So held that unmovable, trying to stay steady with it. Don't waste it on a freaking hammer. He only gets 1 damage. So now he gave up, if you look at it, he gave up what? 3, 4, 5 life in order to only take 1. So I'm at a +4 life advantage off of those 2 turns, which is really nice. That's a good thing. If you have unmovable and Arsenal and you notice that your Starvo is not blocking, regardless if they're a control or a regular build, like it's a little bit safer because you know you're going to be able to pay for it next turn. I forgot what combo I was checking for here. I think I was checking for... Pretty sure I was checking my Whelming Gust Waves, seeing how many targets I had. As you can see, this is starting to get very grindy. This is how control matchups work, though. And I think as a Katsu player, if you can learn how to operate in the control matchups, it really makes you a better player. Sorry, just checking my messages here, y'all. Finally saw my surging strikes. The funny thing about this game is, as much as I was trying to like be slow or whatever, like I didn't see my surging strikes till super late in the game. He ends up blocking out the surging strike fully, which is fine. Now he has no Arsenal, and I can start Kadachiing him. And then we Winds of a Turn here, and now I'm just trying to pitch stack a little bit. Like put some other stuff back in my deck. I know I just pitched away an unmovable the turn before, so if I can pitch away a blue, I could have played Winds of Eternity for 2, but I pitched it away because now I know that my Winds of Eternity and my movable are going to be in the same, hopefully the same stack of cards. So I'll be able to use unmovable again if I absolutely have to. At this point, I'm down to like 25 cards. I didn't think I was going to see the end of my deck, but I knew that there was a chance. Obviously, like if he stalls me out enough. So again, I know I've said it twice this game already, but like he didn't use equipment to block, which still was a little weird. Because like you could crown, and then I guess the weird thing for him is he's gonna have to pitch to use those boots. So if you use like Rampart and Crown on the same turn, and you use boots, you're gonna have to pitch away 2 cards to do that, and I guess that doesn't feel good to only block 4 damage. So I understand that, but he has Crater Fist. He hasn't used it yet, right? So it was really interesting. And there's my other Tunic counter I forgot. Again, call me bad in the comments. That was the second one. It's totally fine. It's whatever. And I said, too, the second I put Head Jab down, I was like, oh, I was supposed to Tunic. Crap. My bad, dude. And then I just was like, whatever. It's my fault. But still getting used to the Tunic. Getting better at it. But I'm just not used to playing with the Tunic. So I'm not used to having to do that counter every game. I have gotten a lot better at it in the last week, though. So he ends up blocking the Head Jab out fully. Really interesting block. I end up Ancestral Empowerment. to give a +1 and draw a card. This is where he said something, and I'm only saying this for like instructional things. Like, he can instant speed crown, but you still draw the card before he crowns. Or you should. He could crown before I draw, but like no matter what, I'm still going to draw the card, so it doesn't really matter. Priority is not. I don't believe priority is passed back to him before I draw. I think you draw with the attack reaction. It resolves, and then he gets priority back, if I remember correctly. If I'm wrong, though, let me know in the comments. So he does end up crowning, and then I head jab again. Now he's got to commit another card from hand, or Rampart in a card or something like that, or Rampart in a Crater Fist. This is where, like, if he's trying to keep cards in hand, like, use your Crater Fist here with your Rampart, and you fully block it out, right? This is where it was, or he could have used his boots, but he ends up turn timbering. Like, I guess he was running so many D reacts. That's the problem with D reacts that cost money. Is now he only has 2 cards in hand. I still have 2 cards in hand. I can use Kodachi's here. He cannot crown out, right? This is what I realized. I was like, he can't crown. I pitched the wrong blue. He was totally cool with me switching it, but he can't crown out, so he has to either use Rampart or use equipment to block these, or block with cards from hand. He ends up taking both Kodachi's, which was really weird. No matter what I have in my hand, and he knew what I had in my hand, Soul Beat Strike, right? Like, don't take those 2 Kodachi's, dude. I don't know. Pitch something, block 1 with Rampart, and then use the last 2 to block with your boots. I don't know. I guess either way, he's committing a card from hand, so it doesn't really matter, but he just kind of took 2 damage there, and now he's going to start getting Kodachi locked, regardless of how controlly he is. Because now he has to make a decision with 1 card in hand. Does he Winner's Will me for 4, or does he have an arsenal so he can crown my Kodachi's? This is now the point in the game where he does kind of have to make sure he has an arsenal. But he ends up trying to Winner's Will me for 4, and this is where I realized, like, okay, this guy's not going to have an arsenal. I'm not going to need Mask at this point. Now I start thinking about blocking with Mask, blocking with Tunic. I think I block with 1 card. Yeah, I do block with a Whelming Gust Wave here. Because I'm like, okay, he's not going to have an arsenal. He's not going to give me a chance to Katsu trigger pretty much, right? Because a full attack's probably not going to get hit anyway. I'm probably going to do all my damage with Kodachi's and attack reactions at this point. So I just block. Only take 1. Try to keep it as low as I can. This game would have almost went. I think it's 50-man timers, right? So this game would have almost went the time. It would have been close. So at this point, he has no crown seeds. So he has to start using Rampart or use his equipment in order to stop these. He doesn't react, which tells me he has to have a D-react in hand. Because if I had a Razor, he's dead, right? So he has to have a D-react in hand. I know he has one at this point. Like, he's too, like, fundamentally solid as a player not to just let a Kodachi go when he knows I still have Razors in my deck. Yeah, I do eventually get my Razor. I don't think it's this turn, though. If you're still with me through all this, y'all are the G's. Y'all are nuts. Y'all want gameplays. I'm sorry, the first one with this deck ended up being a control crazy long one. I don't filter what games, like whatever games I record, I'm posting them. I don't care if I lose by 20, win by 20, whatever. Right? Like if the gameplay looks decent, I'm posting it. So finally here, I think he blocks with Crater Fist. At this point in the game, like similar to me, what I'm about to do next turn, I would have blocked with Tunic or blocked with, you know, something else, because like you're not going to get to probably 3 Tunic resources at this point in the game, right? I don't think a turn's going to go another 3 turns. I just don't think it would. Maybe it will. I don't think it will. So this is where you start valuing your equipment. I did the same thing though. I kept Mask and Tunic as long as possible. He ends up Winter Whale me here for 4, threatening Frostbite. And this is where I block with Mask and Tunic, only taking 1. Yes, I have a Frostbite, but I have a 5-card hand with a Torrent Tempo and Arsenal. So, like, totally okay with taking 1 and getting a Frostbite. So yeah, we end up blocking with those just to maintain our life total high in case he has a high dominating attack. Trying to do it to where it's not going to fully kill us if we just block with 1 card from hand. Because now I'm in the danger zone. If he plays like an Oakenhold fused with Bravo or something like that for like 11 dominate, I'm kind of screwed here. I actually am in the danger zone for Oakenhold. So basically, if he world stars me here, then I'm dead. But the thing is, he really can't at this point because he's not going to be able to keep enough cards in hand to do that. So I'm not as worried about that at this point. So I pitched a Surging Strike and even bigger than that away. Because I was just going to try a pitch stack in case the craziness went super long. At least I have like decent cards to maybe play off of. Which is why I checked my graveyard, because I was counting my blues and seeing how much I was going to have. How many I was going to have to pay for that Surging Strike. He ends up taking it, I think. No, he crowns out of this, I'm pretty sure. I have 2 cards in hand, 1 card in arsenal. I have a Razor in hand. I have an Ancestral in hand, I think. And then I have a Torrent Tempo in arsenal, if I remember correctly. I pitched my Ancestral to Razor, which is giving it 4. So now if he doesn't have D-React, he's dead. So he crowns here, right? So he's taking 2 currently. So he's basically hoping he draws into a Sink Below or a 0-cost D-React, which he doesn't. And we win. Super anticlimactic way to win, but you know what? It is what it is. So yeah, great match. Super crazy. A lot of control, a lot of different. I've never played a control Starvo. It's the first one ever. So it was really interesting to play. But yeah, I won't belate this video. It's already been a super long video. If you're stuck around this long, like, you're amazing, you're crazy. I don't understand you. But I hope y'all enjoyed the gameplay. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want. If not, go to a Fleshbread Creator, do the same thing for them. I'll be trying to post more of the gameplays of this deck on kind of more fun matchups than this one. But yeah, I hope you all have a good rest of your week, and I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.